say aye. Aye. All right, we have a slate of nominations. Let's see, I expect Robert Dees to be here. Robert lives opposite me, and he is on the nominating committee. The board is coming back intact the way it was. So can I have a motion to approve the slate of officers of the board, please? We have Annie Crane and then seconded by Tom Crane. Close? Annie made a motion, you seconded? That's the way it works in that relationship, I'm pretty sure. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. Neil, could you give us the finance for Lake Wicwas?
I can do that. I have just a couple things I wanted to talk to you about. As many of you know, we've been trying to change our classification from a 501c4 to a 501c3. And really the difference there is when you send in donations, those will then be tax deductible. So we like New Hampshire Lakes or like a church, that's the sort of categorization, tax categorization we're looking for. It's been a lot of work. We had to update our bylaws, we had to update our letters of incorporation. Then we had to get those approved by the state. That took, I'm going to say that took 8 months to get the state approved. And then Bob Dietz and I sat, he's a lawyer on the lake, and I sat for a number of hours and filled out a 30-page application, which is was pretty intense. We just submitted all of that to the IRS in May. I got a quick note back from the IRS. Thank you for your application. The average processing time is 191 days. And at 191 days, we'll come talk to you. You either get approval or you have questions. So the good news is we're making some progress on this. I hope by the end of the year I can tell you we've gotten to that point. And remember, the tax deduction and capability of being a 501c4 is good for most of us, but it's also good for us retirees that are over 70 and a half. We can direct funds directly out of our IRAs into Lake Wicwas if we choose to do that, and you don't have to pay taxes. So that's a nice feature of us making that step. So the other thing I would give you is just a quick update on our finances. We have 3 accounts: our operating fund, Crystal's water quality fund, and our preservation fund. Our operating fund stands at $13,780. We typically want to keep that fund about 2 times what our expenses are. We spend about $6,500 a year covering our Lake Coast program, our water quality, and a whole host of other things. But so I would say our operating fund is in a good place. Crystal's Clear Water Quality Fund, that got set up in 2024. Dean set that up. Crystal loved our lake. We had a number of donations, and that fund stands at $7,600. So we've done very well with that fund, and that's really focused on water quality, preservation of the water quality over time in the future. And the last fund is our preservation fund, and that's our largest fund. It's at $32,000. Think of that as kind of our long-term issues bucket. You know, if we had a milfoil outbreak, or if we had a cyanobacteria issue that was as extensive as perhaps Lake Tanasacca, we'd need anywhere from $50,000 to $100,000 in that bucket. And so I've been growing that fund. We get donations every year. We've invested it pretty wisely. We've got some of it sitting in the S&P fund. We've got some of it in cash reserves. So we're getting about 4% of that money. And that fund is just growing. So I encourage you to continue to send in donations because, again, long-term preservation of our lake is probably the most important thing we can do. If you have any questions or any issues with anything I've said? All right, thank you.
Guys, as we move forward as a board, we've been having a number of discussions about the 2 kind of preservation funds, and we haven't quite settled on things, 2 funds, 1 fund. But we didn't have an option this year. We may have one next year. Because people are like, hey, I got a kayak, I can do it. For other people, for the equivalent option. We may have one next year to work on those funds. But more information to come on finances, like I said, in flux. Membership, Peter Gaggett, is going to just work on it.
So, just a few notes on membership and membership dues. So as a community, we've done pretty well with our membership. You guys have been doing a great job. We have a strong membership commitment. So, good job. What we'd like to do is expand the membership as much as possible to include anyone that is associated with Wicwas that hasn't signed up as a member. And you can sign up very easily on the website. It's a simple thing to do. So if you know somebody, a neighbor that's maybe not signed up, and you can kind of steer them towards the website, that would be fantastic. I mean, as a community, we can work to build the membership. I'm going to be contacting individuals who have identified that aren't members and calling them directly and just say, hey, would you like to, just be on the communication list and be part of the community. So I think everybody here is a member. You've all signed up and you've all talked to pay your dues. If you haven't, if you'd like to today, you can either check with Neil or you can go on the website, and it's a very simple thing to do. And you've probably all seen the membership dues levels that were structured, starting at individual at $20 all the way up to a lake legend of 1,000 plus. If you'd like to be a lake legend, we'd love to have you. As of today, we have received about $4,700 for operating costs on a goal of about $6,000, or about 80%. So we're doing pretty good, but the more that we get in, the better. Most of this, as Dean mentioned, or Neil, goes to the Lake House program, which is the most significant lake protection measure we have in place. We will be doing some follow-up notifications after the dust settles today in about a month, contacting people that haven't paid dues, and just an informal reminder, to do it. Thank you again for being such a strong community. And if you're comfortable mentioning to neighbors, if there's a turnover of real estate, please let them know, steer them towards the website, and that would be great. Okay. And I think Eric's talking about Lakesmart.
I'm sure I'm glad that I get to follow the official presentation of Lakesmart is. So there will be very few questions for me, but if there are some, I'll take them, and I have professional help to answer. Okay. Thank you for staying. So last year, Andrea came and talked about lakes and things we could do. We covered Lakesmart as part of her talk, and the board was so impressed with that we made a decision as a board that we wanted that to be a focus for the Lake Wicwas Association. And somehow I said the wrong thing at a meeting, and here I am.
That was the point.
As a measure of support, the board officially is 10 directors and officers. All 10 have had Lakesmart visits. And in total, we've had 18. My count, having made a new list of all the properties that are lakefront and have houses on them, is there are 76. So we've got a ways to go. And the concept that the Lake Wicwas Association board had was try to get everybody to have a visit by the experts from Lakesmart, and then see what kind of interesting things they have to say. The feedback I've gotten from the 18 we've had so far is that for everyone that I've heard about, they learned things. They learned things that weren't impossibly hard or painful, and the people who came to talk to them were very committed, very professional, and by talking to them, you can learn a lot. I know I learned a lot. we have these presentations and we try out the quizzes that Andrea gave us on the properties. But when it comes to your house and your property, there's still more to learn that, like you almost got the idea. And it's quite cool that of the board, 10, they've already had Lakesmart visits, 4 about the Lakesmart board, which Andrea took away, but I brought in others similarly because I think we should. So there you are. And if you don't get it right away, as Andrea said, they just think of you as in progress, and then you have a list of things to consider doing, and if you do them, you can call Lakesmart back and then get one of these. So it's quite cool. The Lakesmart team does scheduled visits on the calendar. I've signed us up for 2 dates coming up. Wednesday, the 27th, and Tuesday, September 2nd, which is right after the holiday. On Friday, they're in the office, so they don't do Fridays. And guess which day was already signed up before I could get on the website and do it on Mondays. So we got a Tuesday and a Wednesday. So for those of you who are only here on weekends or on weekends, we may have to work it another way. The Lakesmart people are very flexible. They told me when they tried this out, that they can come to your property, do the review, even if you're not there, call you on the phone and do an interview, maybe while they're walking around, or a few days later. What we've found is it's most beneficial if you're there, because then you can have an interplay with the people and just learn more. So if we have to do it another way, we can figure it out. But it's best if you are there. So I'm going to send around some sign-up sheets that should be pretty self-explanatory. That's already done, we've already done, we've already done. Sign up for the Lakesmart visit. When you get the sign-up sheet, it asks you if Wednesday, 8/27 is good. If you say yes, then and then there's also an option to say Tuesday, September 2nd is good. If you say yes to both of them, after this meeting, I'll make a schedule so that we can spread things out and make it work for the Lakesmart people. If we can't get at least 4 people to sign up for a day, then Lakesmart won't come out. So it's good to have a group so they're in the area and they can make a run somewhere around the lake. So, questions? Yes? Yeah.
I just wanted to say that in addition to being very professional, they're also very friendly and non-judgmental. It's just all about talking about your property and how you see it and what you could improve if you chose to. But I felt that they were very comfortable, yes, to talk to.
So we're going to have 2 additional testimonials in just a minute. When they're doing the walk-around and interview with you, you'll get a copy of a sheet that looks like this. They're doing evaluations and interviews about driveways, parking areas and pathways, structures and wastewater treatment systems, yard gardens and recreation areas, and shoreline and water access. And they're giving you suggestions if they have any about those things. So Neil, you had a visit. How was it for you?
I did have a visit. They came to my house a couple of weeks ago. It was probably about an hour visit. We walked the property. We talked about the house. We talked about some of our habits in the house, like how often do we do laundry, how often is the septic tank pumped out, that sort of thing. I did not get one of the Star Awards. There were some good things I had done over the years. I had good water collection of the water coming off the roof and running into a green vegetated area. Our septic tank does get pumped on a regular basis, generally every 2 years. I needed a little help, and they gave me a lot of help on one area of water runoff where kind of my flat driveway then does run down to the lake. And I think years ago, people before used to put their boat in right on the property. And I got to put some vegetation in there and some sort of a French drain to try to collect some of that runoff. So I got some good, helpful advice, and I was happy to participate.
Great. Thanks. Pete?
Yeah. So I had the Lake Smart folks come. It's free. It doesn't take long. They're extremely knowledgeable and friendly. I forget the young lady's name, but she was terrific. I didn't get an award, but one of the recommendations they made for me, which was very simple. Down by the lake, I have 4 steps. And I had gravel, but I had topped them off with sand. And she said, you should dig out the sand. I have the sand because it's soft on my feet. Dig out the sand and put it in pea stuff, which I've done. So I'm working towards an award. But it was really educational. And it's well worth it, so I would encourage everybody to sign up.
So thank you. When you're thinking about signing up, we've had cases where people have said, I'm only going to be there in the morning till 10 because then I have appointments and they have to go. If that's the case for you, you have a limitation of some sort or another, just write it in the comment and then we'll do our best to accommodate you. The Lake Smart people who come have been very flexible to work with those kind of restrictions that we've given them. And so we've had some good experiences. Questions for me? Anybody? Any concerns? So, yeah, Amy.
How many homes or properties do we need around the lake to go through this process to be a Lake Smart community?
I defer to Andrea.
Well, thank you for the great question. You're already a Lake Smart community.
No.
And then, just by participating in the program, but then you guys set goals, like we want to be, we were talking about you being bronze, silver, or gold type community based on, what goals you guys want to set. Like we want to have this many homes, properties like Smart, or this many. So, that's the next step is to figure out how you guys want to define that and how you want to work towards your goals. How many for gold? You tell me. And you propose something to us, because every community is different, right?
76.
So, Eric will tell you, you guys can think about it, and we can, talk and say, yeah, that sounds like a reasonable.
Yeah, we're still early in the program, and judging by the reception today, I think everyone gets the idea that there's value here, and so let's just see how far it goes. And by natural pickup. Natural pickup includes the people who don't sign up, who I haven't heard from. I just call. And we'll keep doing this until we figure that we have to try something else in order to get more take-up. But I think the program pretty much sells itself to almost everybody, and given our community, I think we're going to do very well. So, thank you.
We meet like once a month, and we're working through these sort of things. So one of the most interesting Lake Coast visits they did is they walked Dolph Brook, right? You walked Dolph Brook completely from like the Stone Sugar House
To the Chase Road.
to Chase Road. Did you walk it down to the lake too?
Yes.
Yeah, so they walked all of that Dolph Brook inlet. I met the guy who, of course I meet a lot of people, but I met the guy who just bought that property, so we'll get him on the property. But it was actually very heartening to hear that they weren't as concerned about Dolph Brook as like we were. There were some nice natural turns in there. The beaver dam is still holding some other things. So we're not only using the Lake Smart property for individual owners, but we're also, going to use it eventually to look at some areas. And then what we'll do is around the lake, we'll prioritize some areas of focus as a board. And then maybe we've also talked about maybe giving some help for landowners or doing some cooperative work for people to get some projects done. So very exciting. I'm here to talk about Lake Coast. When I first came on the board, that was Lake Coast. My background is in schools. This is what you call a high impact, low incident issue that you're dealing with. For us, it was guns in schools. High impact, low incident. And that's what we have at Lake. It would be a very high impact if we got invasive species coming in the lake and they established. And so we put people down on the lake to do inspections. Because, well, you can't be there all the time, and what if something comes in while you're not there? Well, yeah, that's gonna happen. We can't man that ramp all the time. So really what your goal is education. Your real goal is, the reason you have a person at the ramp is you want to educate people about invasive species, you want to educate them on good, safe boating practices as far as transferring species. And again, it's one of those volunteer things. It's a voluntary, can I inspect your boat at your command? Can I talk to you a little bit about invasive species? And, you know, it's a nice, friendly area down there. I mean, I would even say it's a party spot sometimes. But, you know, I live right opposite the ramp. I see some corn pumping going on at night, whatever that means. But it's interesting. But we have 2 lake hosts. We have Dorothy, who is a local, Dorothy Kroll is a local girl. Her parents live on Chemung, and I think she lives over like with Blake. And she's been on a long-term lake host, been there 3 years. She's really good about knowing the problem with the lake host is it is so weather dependent. It's like you can have a great, beautiful day in the middle of the week. A lot of people use the rain. You can have a rain on the weekend and no one's there. So our present program, we try to staff it Friday through Monday for basically Memorial Day through Labor Day. This year, because of the way we run it, we'll be able to staff it a little bit on the weekends. And then Scott is the volunteer coordinator. So what our paid lake hosts don't cover, we try to get some volunteers down. But again, much more invitation. So little pie charts. I'm an analog person. That's kind of our annual budget, about $6K like we talked about. 80% of it goes to lake hosts of our operating budget. And then in the Lake Coast program, 40% of the Lake Coast is paid by that. 40% comes from the town of Meredith. We are very grateful for the town of Meredith for their support. And then 20% comes from New Hampshire Lakes. And the program basically runs itself now. It's all run by technology. Everything is done. And once a year I sit down and we look at the reports, we look at the number of inspections, we look at what's happening. And we try to make some decisions about how we run the Lake Coast program. Our biggest problem has been staffing. That's our biggest problem. And believe it or not, some people don't see getting paid $15 an hour to sit down on a beautiful boat ramp. That's an enticing job. And it's just hard to get people. A lot of times it's these kids and they're doing it as a second job, and the staffing's been tough, and that's where our volunteers come in. At this point, I would like to pause our program and call Paula Crumley up here. Paula, are you in the room? Yes. Because before me, there was a man named Paul Twombly who ran the Lake Coast program, and it was Paul's passion, and he started it, and he loved to be at the ramp.
He did.
And he hired Dorothy, who has been at the ramp but we want to recognize Paul. He was there for a long time. I mean, he did the Lake Coast program for a long time. And Paul's been struggling with his back a little bit. But we wanted to say thank you. Could you really do Paul?
Well, I wish Paul could be here, he's still recovering from surgery. But I gotta tell you, he loves doing it because all the people that came before us were taking care of the lake, and he really thought it was very important. And so many of you sitting here, and some aren't, but so many people volunteered to be a lake host that it worked out great, he really did. And so he wants to thank you for all of your participation. So, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for what you are doing. Yeah, we appreciate it.
Things. If you know a young person needs a job next summer, it actually is a kind of nice job. I'm contacted. And if you have a chance, stop about our lake hosts. Peyton's the other one. She's a first-year college student. She's actually studying biology and But they're good. I've watched them do the work. They're very good Lake Coast. We have a lot of repeat visitors. People tend to come here over and over, so it's nice to have someone down there for rent. All right, now we've had a little changeover. We have a person who I have really come to respect and really like what he does. He's a better scientist than I am, absolutely. He teaches kids. He's had some great time with kids up here and mucking around and finding critters. And he knows all of the names of the plants. Unfortunately, he knows none of the names of the islands, but I've been teaching him. But Russ has come on and he'll introduce you what he does. He's going to do two things. I kind of put them in the same thing of like a water quality or natural resources stewardship. He's going to talk about water quality and weed watchers. Thank you.
I teach biology and environmental science at New Hampshire School. I started my 26 years, and so we've been, actually, I've been doing projects with my classes, with some of the test kits we've had at the tributaries for years, and now we have more resources, and so I could actually, really work on that to look at the tributaries as well as taking data for the lake from now on. First of all, I just want to thank Marge and David. I can't say enough about, I think they're sort of stepping down from a lot of the things for weed watchers and for the biology, and I think it's taken like 4 people, 4 other volunteers to take up what they've done, and I think still will be doing, here and there, but I want to thank them and give them a big round of applause. I'll still talk about weed watchers. For those, just a quick, there's a bunch of us, and including Margin Dave Thorpe, Tom Crane, Levon Blake, Jillian Cohen, Dean Cascadden, Scott Powell, Judy Larson, Claire Ann Beckler, and Amy Wilson. And we, take kayaks. We have a certain part of the lake shore that we go around and monitor for invasive species. So the good news is we have no invasive species, or except for some, we have the Asian mystery snail that has been around. Otherwise, for the plants and the milfoil, we're still the only lake in Meredith that does not have milfoil, and that a lot is because of the Lake Coast program, and because of I think a lot of situations the fact that we don't get a lot of, as much boat traffic as some of the other lakes. But if you want to learn more about that, Marge has set up this amazing exhibit, as she always does, and so that's great. If you do see plants, if you're just paddling, because everybody, we're all responsible to become weed watchers, really. And the weed watchers, really, we only go out maybe once or twice a summer. But if you're paddling along and see something that you suspect as a plant, you can text me, or that's probably the best way, or Amy, that would be probably better. But if you have something to write down, my number is 603-707-0597, or it'll be probably in some, we can put out an email, things like that. But don't try to remove it by yourself. If you see something you suspect, if you try to remove it, it may break it up into pieces, and that's what spreads it. And so, call us, Scott, Dave, any of us, and we'll check it out and see if it needs to be removed. Just make sure that you couple. We see that there's a lot of alarm sometimes about bladderwort, which is native, that it can get a little, could build up a little bit in front of your dock, and that's native. You don't need to worry about it. There's some pictures of that over there. And recently there is bryozoan, which is this brain-looking gel thing that looks very invasive and very scary. Native, great for the lake. It actually helps clean the lake and filters the lake. And so they may look a little gross, but keep them there. So really cool. We used to have at the lake in New Jersey, we had them grow like basketball size, and they'd be like on the steps to your dock. But yeah, they're really good for the lake. So no invasives. Yes. Let's see. Then, VLAP, the Volunteer Lake Assessment Program, since 1990, they have been sending biologists to all the lakes in the Lakes region and in New Hampshire to test the water quality of the lakes. And Dave has been their contact since the beginning of time, and now I'm taking over for that. And they have been, and you can see, I'm not going to get into the data that the lake clean. I mean, we have a very clean lake. The chemistry is very good. There are some, issues about phosphates deep in the water and things like that, and sort of we definitely need to work on phosphates. Last year's data is 2024 is up there, and Dave was great to make that. I have the raw data for the 2025 visit that was late June, but they haven't done that assessment that's on the right side, which sort of tells us, gives us more suggestions. We're still waiting on that. I think the DES is having trouble with some turnover and things like that, and so we may be waiting on that a little bit. But one of my goals for that is that most lakes get tested 3 times during the June, July, and August, and we only do it once. And so now I have help from Peter and from Jim. We're looking to maybe expand that to June, July, and August. And that way they'll get a better assessment of what happens during the summer also, different times of year. So that could be one thing I'll be looking forward to. I haven't talked to Neil about that yet, but we'll talk about that. So so that is. If you want more details about the data from last year or this year, I'll get to stand there, and maybe David can join me, and we could all chat about it if you have specific questions. But otherwise, I look forward to also doing my project with the classes to monitor the tributaries with some some serious DES type equipment, which will make it much more scientific. So thank you very much.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think, when I look at our lake and look at the history of it, I don't have the map up here, but you basically have Lake Brook and Dollar Brook as influence. And not too worried about Lake Brook because that's so much coverage. If you go back there, it's just, Dollar Brook's they're really the inflow we're worried about. And up on Chase Road is good. There's presently also only one outlet, the lower dam. I guess there used to be an upper dam, as they lower dam. But where Eric lives, there used to be a culvert there in Harris Cove. There used to be a culvert that went out and fed into the Chemung Forest and back there. Some people remember it, but there is, we basically have that one outlet. So you think of anything coming into the lake. I mean, the main channel comes in the inlet, goes through the 40-foot deep section, and then right down to the dam. The rest of it is kind of backwater. I mean, it doesn't get a whole lot of flow, it doesn't get a lot of change. I mean, the wind comes in and mixes things up. But, once we get a better, what you look at lakes now is they're developing models like this for your specific lake, not just a general lake how things work. But the big thing we got to worry about is the sediment. We really do. The sediment, and that's why when you look at boating restrictions, you look at the wakes and so forth. And we're lucky we don't have the wake boats. We're too small for that. We don't have a lot of people who ski or so forth. And when they do, they're out in the middle of the channel. You don't want a lot of wakes coming up on the side and stirring things up or stirring things up there. So there are things we can do. We'll look at the data a little more closely. I think that's really good. Now, for the Dave Thorpe, oh my goodness, what a guy. Been on the lake forever. He's going to talk about 2 things. Loons. As an evolutionary biologist, I think a species that needs this much help reproducing, we should just let it go. But, they take, they're great, they take a lot of care, you gotta look at water levels from the nest, sometimes they get frozen in the water, you gotta rescue them. They're a lot of work. But Anthony Goodwin's, and then the other thing is he's gonna talk about our relationship with the town, which is very important. So Dave, you have the floor for a while, and come on the floor.
Marge and I aren't going anywhere.
Yeah, that's right.
It's particularly nice to hand off to most of the water quality stuff to Russ. I can't think of anybody better qualified. He was already doing the rivers, he's got the right educational background, and so we put it in good hands. Quickly on loons, last year we got totally skunked. The northern pair nested twice. The first time the nest was predated, the second time the nest was predated, and unfortunately the female of the pair was killed. We don't have the necropsy report yet, so we don't exactly know why. We don't know whether it was a ground animal that predated the nest and killed her, or whether it was some other loon that intruded and killed her. And we're waiting for that. Scott, unless you've heard something, we don't have that yet. So this year, and the southern pair, the Harris Cove pair, they nested successfully, but their nest was predated as well. And Scott found the egg fragments, I think it was, or I did, I can't remember, shortly after. And so we had 0 loons last year and 0 chicks, and it was the worst year probably ever. I've been trying to track the loons for over 20 years, and I think clearly it's the worst possible year we've ever had. This year, we will join the northern male, and we can identify that because of the band on the leg, was joined by a new female. As far as I know, that female was not banded. I never saw any bands. I don't think anybody else ever saw any bands, so we have no idea where she came from. They fooled around for a while. I saw them trying to find the nest once. Someone else, I can't remember who it was, thought they saw them also trying to nest. I think it was you. Said they were trying to nest. As far as we know, they never did nest, and they never produced any eggs. And since then, I think they've broken up. The Harris Cove pair, because of high water, and this last spring was a real challenge with high water, they did nest once, almost right on Chemung Road, down near the Ducharme's boat area. That got flooded. They moved to a nest another 50 feet away or so, kind of east, and that nest was successful. If you were around, it was much easier to see it from Chemung Road than it was from the lake. And they produced 2 chicks, which I think are still with us. Now, there's a little question. Debbie Crowley gets out a lot and takes these incredibly good pictures, and she was quite concerned yesterday that we only had 1 chick left. But I think it was Neil, said he saw both chicks as late as last night.
Yeah, late afternoon, I thought I saw both chicks, yes.
So the chicks are kind of interesting this year, even though they were hatched only 1 day apart. There's a significant difference in their size. And the larger one is already starting to shed its, if you will, its hatching feathers, and it's kind of juvenile feathers. The other one, as far as I could see a few days ago, was starting that process, but looked to me to be at least a week and maybe 10 days, and hopefully not 2 weeks behind the larger one. The larger one has been spending a lot of time all by itself. And so the smaller chick has been really with either one or both adults, and so we're hoping it's getting plenty of care, and its development will increase and we'll start to catch up. So, but we've just got to get out there and find the 2 of them together at one time. As far as the town is concerned, I have another new town manager this year. She seems much more capable than the last one that we had. I've spent some time with her, had a couple of meetings with her. She seems very active in a number of really positive initiatives. I think she's an excellent business person. I think she's going to manage the town finances better than they've been managed in a while. And one of my principal things for working with her is not just some of the other activities around town, but just to make sure we're well known. So when we write a letter to her in the fall and ask for our donation, that she doesn't blow us away because she doesn't know who we are. And I think we've probably got that problem under control already. But every year, it's a little bit of a challenge to make sure we get that significant donation from them, as we've done for the last many years. The ramp. Those of you who have been by the ramp lately have noticed the 9 precast planks that are laying there. The town has successfully kicked the can down the road at least 3 years trying to get that ramp rebuilt. In many ways, we don't want it rebuilt because we don't want to encourage powerboating. On the other hand, it's become a liability. We've had people hurt, falling off the edges of it. We've had somebody who lost an axle off a trailer because they pulled out with a large rise. It really, for a lot of reasons, does need to be rebuilt. Pretty confident it's going to happen this fall. The Director of Public Works is going to retire this at the end of December. I think I can finally convince him that it's a credit to him to get the thing done before he retires. And I think it will. Excuse last year was they didn't have a workable excavator to do it. Town just spent $650,000 and bought him a brand new one. So I think that excuse is going away. So we'll keep working on it. The dam. Scott helps me a lot watching out for the dam. We kind of share it from time to time. This spring was a challenge. Trying to get the boards out in time and get them back and so on was a real challenge. The Water and Sewer Department has been incredibly cooperative. Compared to past years, it's just been an enormous breath of fresh air. Superintendent's a wonderful guy. We had one case where we stuffed about a 10-inch diameter, full-length tree into the dam this spring. They were up there in an hour and a half with their new excavator, pulled it out. Unfortunately, they did it so fast I wasn't even there to watch them do it. And so they've just been great. And it's a manual dam. For those of you who aren't familiar with it, it requires pulling and putting boards back in. I can handle the top 2. When it gets down to the third, it's a little more than I can handle. And so the water and sewer folks really do the job very, very well. Let's see. Yeah, I guess the last thing I would mention really quickly is if any of you rent your properties on a short-term rental basis, this past March, the town passed a new ordinance that controls those. And starting this September, I believe, they are going to institute an annual licensing program. So I don't want to take any more time in this meeting about that, but if you are a short-term renter and you have any questions about these new ordinances and how they're going to work, why don't you just meet me up in this corner after the meeting. I'll fill you in. Anything else I should add? Okay, I guess we're all set. Thank you.
Our last item covered is Scott and Tom are going to talk about the Conservation Committee. Scott's not going to help?
Okay, I'll give a brief rundown. The biggest thing we found, we had an opportunity to get a very large sum of money for conservation in our watershed. As has been mentioned here a number of times, the Wicwas Lake did a study which included our watershed, and it mentioned if the Dolph Brook watershed gets fully developed, we could have up to 300 and something days a year of cyanobacteria blooms, which would basically, you know, as many of you are familiar, Lake Kanasaka lost almost all of last year, I think it was, to cyanobacteria blooms. Spent, it wasn't 100,000 or 50,000, it was $800,000 total to put a coating on the bottom of the lake. Luckily, they were able to get a $500,000 grant for that. But also, unfortunately, this year, they've had cyanobacteria blooms despite all of that effort. So really, the most, the important things that we need to do is all of the Lake Smart stuff that Andrea talked about. And again, I will stress, we had our Lake Smart visit a couple of years ago. The people aren't out there to get you, say, oh, why did you do this, or why did you do that? A lot of us over the years have probably done things that maybe we shouldn't have. But they're there to kind of help us figure out what can we do now. But the other thing is to, in that Winnisquam watershed study, they said, I think right now there were something like 56 homes in that watershed. Fully developed, it could be up to 1,200. And if that gets developed, all of those lawns, all of the septic, all of that stuff is going to come into our lake. So anyway, last year, Eric Cohen and Scott, myself, and Rick DeMark, who lives fortunately up in the Dolph Brook watershed and has been very active in conservation. I don't know how many hours we spent last year. We were looking, there was what's called a Regional Conservation Protection Program, RCPP. I think I've got the initials right. And we were looking at the possibility, was it 5 million, Scott, that we finally were going after? And we came extremely close to making it, but didn't quite. At the same time, I'm on the board of the Lakes Region Conservation Trust. I finally got them to get an application in. I felt very frustrated. I think if they had worked on it earlier, they might have had a chance to do it. Anyway, unfortunately, when we found out, we only found out about this time last year, or maybe it was a little bit later, that we weren't successful. And kind of, I know it deflated me, and I think all of us, but we spent a lot of time on that. Although one positive thing out of that is one of the couples, one of the families up there that we had worked with on it has applied for a wetlands restoration easement where they would get an easement on their property and actually wind up getting paid for it and still own the property. And that would protect, I think it's pretty close to 200 acres up there. Also, we found out they have a restriction on an adjacent lot, which is a couple of 100 acres. So those two things would could potentially help us a lot. But I think the biggest thing is that I want to get across with that is that our group has always tried to find ways to get money to help people put land into conservation. We know they're giving up something. We did the aquatic resource mitigation grant for the project we did on the lake a few years ago, an ARM grant. We had a WRE on 200 acres up in the watershed. Unfortunately, that fell through, but we're pretty creative at being able to find things. The other thing I'll just mention with that is just like Dave does with the town, it's invaluable, the connection that we have developed with other communities. And I'll just say that, I think if people have an opportunity to get involved, again, Dave with the town, Scott has been the head of the Conservation Commission in Meredith. I'm on the board and treasurer of the Lakes Region Conservation Trust. That we've worked with the Winnisquam Network. Scott and I have been over to the town of New Hampton to their Conservation Commission. We recently got a call from them, Bob Pollock, the head of the commission, that there's some cutting done on the 104 up off by Dollar Brook, which is putting a lot of dirt into the, and runoff into the Dollar Brook, which will come into our lake. We're working with them to try and get DES to enforce that. Just quickly, as Dean mentioned, we do have the preservation fund here. Donating to that, like I said, I think especially now that we didn't get that grant that could have given us money to conserve that land up there, having money in that fund would help. At the Lake Treasure Conservation Trust, which is a 501c3 tax deductible organization already, we have a fund that is specifically set aside for Lake Wicwas projects. We use that fund. It was donated very generously by a lot of people in our organization back when we were trying to conserve the property around the lake. And that money will stay there for projects for Lake Wicwas. And it's dedicated for work in our watershed, which would include the Dollar Brook. So if you have an opportunity and can do anything with that, that would be great. And we're moving forward. We'll see what we can do, get re-energized. We're trying to arrange a meeting for maybe Labor Day week. Anyway, if there's any questions, Scott, do you want to add anything?
I think you covered it. There's a lot of work going on. So.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, get your numbers out, get your numbers out, get your numbers out. For a beautiful Lake Wicwas bumper sticker that has my friend Stacy and Darren Redmond.